Good, because this is the volume I'm going to talk. So I hope that's okay. Come on, you got 30 seconds. God damn. I remember some university, the student came in late, and the professor was really angry. And he said, well, why do you think you can come in late? And the kid said, well, when we were in high school, they always told us, what are you, a free student? You can come in whenever you want. Now we're students. We're going to come in whenever we want. So I guess that applies. Maybe not. All right, so I think we can start. Is everyone ready? Can we start?
Yeah.
Louder?
Yeah. Louder.
Better. All right, good. So I want. Thank you. I want to start. I'm going to continue also, not just start. I want to talk about excess. God damn it. It's totally inexcusable. Please come in.
I think I'm going to take over the talk now.
Well, if they wanted a qualified speaker, I wouldn't be here to begin with. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to talk about excess a bit. And to a lot of you, this isn't news. And that's fine. The idea is to get access to people to whom it is a new thing. And it is kind of scary. And I would like to demystify excess a bit. When I start to talk about excess with people, usually they think about this. Or this. Or, damn it. Wait, I got this.
That is pretty much what
this. Which makes sense. So this is what usually people think of. And the thing with excess is, just describing it a little bit, it's mainly a glue layer between C and Perl, or C++ and Perl. It is made out of sections, macros, and functions. It requires some knowledge in C, in the Perl API itself, in the excess API, some type maps, stuff like that. And it is written by very best, very smart, capable people, perhaps made a few mistakes, but overall very intelligent people, very prolific writers. And these are many of the words that people think about when they think about excess. It's complex, it's difficult, it's strenuous, laborious, painful, formidable. There are more words to be found in thesaurus. And a lot of the time what people say is that excess is an impediment to modern Perl. So we cannot continue with Perl into that modern age that we always talk about if we still have to write excess. The talk before me was about libFFI and how to get out of the, I don't know if it was libFFI, it was FFI specifically, to get around that having to write excess yourself. Because, oh my God, how are we going to continue with building like really tremendous, amazing, awesome applications in Perl if I have to write this shit? So I kind of want to change that. The thing with excess is that anyone can write it. It just seems like it's not true. See, excess is mostly misunderstood. You don't need to be an expert to write in excess. You can use basic Perl API skills. You don't have to know all of the nitty-gritty. You don't have to know all of the history. You don't really need that. The basic API will work. And excess itself is not very difficult. It just seems that way. There's a ton of options in excess, and they're all documented. Except. Well, they're all documented except those that aren't. They're all documented except that the official tutorial sucks. Like, it really sucks. It really, really, really sucks. It doesn't even work past a certain point. Of course, they're all documented except that there's no better or other full tutorial, at least one that I could find. Because I've searched for excess tutorials that were good enough for me to use. And I consider myself, even though some people think that I'm advanced, I'm not. I'm actually very, very stupid. I just fake really well. Thanks for the head nodding. The most intense head nodding I've seen since a metal show. So I needed the tutorial that I could understand. And that's saying a lot. But I couldn't find any, including the tutorial that we have as part of Perl Core, which is, it's just a terrible thing. So I decided I'll just write one, which is always a good idea, right? So I'll just write my own. And this is how I got to excess fun. The idea itself materialized after I talked to Stefan Muller, who gave me an initial skeleton for excess that he named excess fun. And I started playing with that, and I figured, well, I can use this in order to build bigger things. And while I'm learning using this, I can document what I learned. And once I document what I learned, hey, this is actually now a tutorial. And you can go through the same path that I went through in order to write excess. And what I want to do is just show you the stuff that I've written and explain it. The talk itself is not about excess directly, but it is about the tutorial that I've written called Excess Fun. So the tutorial is meant to make excess a pleasure, and it is when you get it working. Like when you actually understand how it works and how Perl internally works, and you can get it working and write some excess, it is a lot of fun. It is a pleasure. There's a certain sense of accomplishment that you get from understanding something that everyone is afraid of, and seeing that it's not that big, and it's not that insane. We start very easy. We progress very slowly because I needed that. I needed to not to jump from A to K, I needed to jump to B, hopefully with a step in between, because that's hard. So we progress very, very slowly, kind of getting into things one at a time. Everything is split into chapters, right? So you can go through each chapter. Chapters are very small, and each one takes a very small task. And that's how we get between chapters. So I want to give a quick glossary. Oh, actually, I think sorry, I missed two things. One more thing is that there's a lot of explanation for beginners, which is really, 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 really important. When I'm a beginner in Excess, a lot of these tutorials, what they do is say, well, now you just use these 10 functions and that's it. There you go. I have no idea what they mean. I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know why they use those. I don't know what those letters mean. I don't know what those letters mean. It's just weird. And I needed a lot of help to understand things from a beginner perspective. A lot of the success tutorials that we have assume that you're already a prolific C author. That I haven't coded in C in a really long time. Thank God I didn't need to. But a lot of them assume that you're already very familiar with the Perl API. The Perl API is relatively scattered, the documentation. It's available, but it's not glued together in a good way, in my opinion. So it's hard to just know all of that. You kind of need a lot of history and a lot of experience. And all of the examples work, which sounds stupid, but this doesn't apply to the existing Excess tutorial that comes with Perl. I couldn't get the third example and onwards going. None of them. It was terrible. They actually used cascading makefiles with tabs and spaces, while the layout provided spaces instead of tabs. And dear God. So everything here works. Now, some features, of course, I went through all of those. So some features you can find on GitHub. It's already there. You can fork it. You can play with it. It had a few pull requests from people. You can fix my shitty English. You can fix my shitty Perl. You can fix my shitty Excess. You can fix my shitty C. And chapter distribution and anything else that I did there. There are already a few chapters, 0 to 3. I have 4 written. I haven't committed it yet. And it comes with a skeleton kind of built in, so we can just copy that skeleton and get working. I cover functions, both in C and Excess. So we have some C functions that we interact with using Excess, and we have some functions in Excess directly, which is really nice. I have an example of how to write a constructor. So kind of the thing that we do with Perl all the time, it's written entirely in Excess. And to me, that was very interesting, and I loved doing it, and I was really, really happy when it worked, and I learned a lot. So I put that in just so we could see how things work in Perl. And there's a few simple methods. So kind of running simple functions from other modules and stuff like that. And everything is tested. It comes full on with testing that works. And an interesting thing that I'm going to show later, that some of these tests actually test things that I didn't understand. And then when I learned them, I wrote a test to match what I learned to make sure that it didn't fuck up. And that's actually very important. I found a memory leak because of how I misunderstood Perl. But then I wrote a test for that memory leak, fixed it, and the test is in. It's fantastic. So, what's missing? Complicated methods. I don't have that yet. There's a lot of ways to do methods. I have some code that I haven't committed yet, but it's still missing. Feel free to help me add this. It's really for all of us. I don't have converting objects with type maps. Again, there is some code. It's not committed yet. My concept of this is that I do not commit or push anything that I don't fully understand and can fully explain to someone else. That's why there's a lot of code just waiting to be committed, because until I'm able to fully explain it, you're not going to see it. And it's very important for me. And some advanced XS stuff that I don't have covered yet. And feel free to help. Now, before we start, I just want to go over a quick glossary, terms that you should know that you're going to see in the code. I don't want you to be scared. I'm going to present them right now. And then when we see them in the code, you'll understand what they mean. We'll go over them together. We'll start with an SV. An SV is scalar value. So any scalar that you have in Perl is seen by Perl internally as an SV. An SV can be an IV, which is an SV to an integer. When you have a my minus 30, what Perl will do is assign an SV for scalar I, and it's going to insert a value as an IV minus 30. There's UV, which is unsigned. There's NV, which is a double, and PV, which is a string. Of course, we also have an SV to an SV, and next one would be an AV. An AV is the same thing, it's just for an array. We have HV for a hash, and an RV for a reference value. These are the types that Perl has. And these are the types that we're going to see, and that's what we're going to play with. So instead of using scalar I, we're going to use what's in scalar I, so maybe an IV. Perhaps we're going to use scalar I as an SV directly, so you'll know what that is. We're just using the entire scalar itself. When we use AV, we're using an array value. We're playing with an array variable. So far, so good. Does anyone have any questions?
Well,
Almost.
what was the purpose of the SV being listed twice?
Oh, don't ask me to explain stuff that will take me longer than the time that I have. Is that a good answer?
Because you said so.
Because I said so. That never works for me.
Doesn't RV belong in that list of RV isn't like its own title?
Well, you could say so, but from the documentation that I've read, it kind of is easier to follow when it's outside here.
Okay.
It's just much easier to follow, though. And honestly, that's all we need to cover just to understand everything that we'll see from this point on. So I want to give a few examples. Let's start. The following is a basic PM file. It has your package, strict warnings. You should always have. We're using exporter. We can talk about which exporter modules we could use, basic stuff. We're using XS loader, and what XS loader is going to do is load all of the XS code that we have based on exporter, which actually we should use parent. We have a version, export tags, export OK. All of this is generic stuff. What we have here is XS loader load, XS fun, and a version. And what this does is pretty much the same as a use statement, but it asks to load an xsfun.xs file. And it also gives it a version, just like the use statement might. Here is what xsfun.xs would look like. At the beginning, we have define Perl no-get-context, having to do with multiplicity in Perl. You don't actually need to think about it at the moment. There is an explanation in the tutorial for it. I haven't pushed it yet, but I added it just recently. There's a couple of files here that help us use Perl and XS itself. So extern, Perl, xsub, pp port helps us with portability. From this point on, we're starting to write XS code. The beginning is just defining a module and the package for it. Here we have a function in XS. This is in xsfun.xs. It will return a double. It's called add numbers. It gets A and B as doubles. There's a piece of code here that we put under the label code. And then we set retval, which is the return value variable, to be the value of A plus B. And the output label here tells us what is the output we're going to get from the XS function add numbers. And we just say, we're going to return a red val. It's fine. Here's a different way of doing this. So at first, we use doubles. Now we can actually also use SVs, because these doubles are SVs. So you could use both. This comes from the direction of seeing it as pure C. This comes from the direction of seeing it as Perl API directly. So we say that what we're going to get is a pointer to an SV. That's the same thing we're going to get in A and B. As doubles, they are SVs, basically. Our code is going to have const double sum. And what we're using is functions here, SV, NV, which what it does is it says, I have an SV. I want to get the NV value for it. I want to get the NV. The V is for value. So the double value for this SV. In our case, it's going to be the actual double value of an SV called A. So if you're saying scalar A that has some value as a double, SVNV is going to fetch it out. We're adding that with the same thing from B. That's it. We now have a sum. But we're going to have to return an SV. And we got all of this in a double. So we're going to have to create a new SV from this double, which is really simple. New SV and NV from sum. That's it. The rest is the same. It's very simple. If I understand this, you know what? We all could. Yes?
So if this was originally created, this particular SV was originally created as a string, when you call SVNV on it, does that do the conversion to convert it to a double?
Oh, snap.
You know, Perl would do that automatically, but in Inexcusable.
No.
Okay.
Riley says no.
But it does fetch fetching.
Yeah. So you would need to have some double value there. OK. I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, it's basically the same thing. What happens
Okay.
if you call this with something that isn't a double?
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Crashes, or it gives you an error?
I'm not sure.
Croaking would be nice.
Sure. I'm not sure. I actually don't have a test for that. That would be a good idea.
Probably converts it. I mean, it probably reads SV from a number from SV and gets 0, because if you pass a string as a number, it would be converted to 0, like Perl usually does.
I don't know if it does that in the XS level.
And converts to a number. Well, this SV is just like a huge structure of like string, number, and stuff.
Yes, but
the
if it
number is 0, it will be 0.
if it doesn't have an NV, I don't know if it converts automatically to 0.
Should I answer it? Without debugging, it will return 0.0, and with debugging, you will get a type error.
All right, good to know. So the first person who writes a test for it after this, I owe them a drink. Here's an example where I'm using a library called chromoprint. Chromoprint is just this nice C library that creates a fingerprint from an audio file. That's it. I have no use for it other than trying to learn XS using it. So what we do here is included, just like in C, basic C file. In the code section, just like we saw, we have a const char star as a pointer, get version. What it will do is just call chromoprint get version, which is exported from this. Output red val. Hey, look at that. We just connected a piece of C code, C library, straight into Perl. That's it. This is it. It's pretty cool. It's not that complicated. Here's a test for it. If I use xsfun all, that just exports everything, and I call get version, I'll check if it returns this. Whoop. Fucking. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Everything sucks. There we go. Works. That's it. It's also really fast. Did you see that? Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Go.
So why isn't that returning in an SV? Why is it going in a string pointer?
Sorry?
Why isn't it returning back in an SV instead of a string?
It is returning an SV to Perl, which gives you a scalar. Or did
Do you
I?
want me to explain how this works a little?
Oh, yeah.
Nothing, or do you want to
Well, in the previous example, you have the new SV from, but in this one, you're just returning straight out a string. So Perl's doing something with this. It understands to create an SV for this.
Oh, yeah, there's a conversion here. const char star.
So in some cases it automatically converts, and in other cases
Yeah.
it's just, you have to explicitly.
Well, it's not that I had to before. I just wanted to show how to do with the SVs.
Okay. So basically you're always working with essentially strings unless you specify.
You could. I suggest working in SVs. I just want to show an example. Like if I would do this, I would actually use SVs directly for two reasons. I would want to see how the guts plays with it. But two, I would want to be very explicit about this and not assume on automatic conversions. Yes?
Okay, so I wanted to mess with XS before, but never had.
Okay.
I'm covered in C, so it's not quite an issue. The top part there isn't a valid C code, so this is some kind of abstraction layer.
Yes.
Is the XS making the C for you?
The XS basically is, the XS is like a preprocessor for a piece of C code with sections and macros. So there's sections, there's macros, there's functions, and the XS kind of takes that, the XS loader kind of creates a normal C file from all of that. It expands.
XS loader.
Sorry?
Is it that?
It's not the XS loader that does that?
No, it happens at module install time with XS.
Oh, right. The make part.
XS is basically a language.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The make part, the composite generates the C code and all of that. The XS loads that. I'm sorry. That's actually in the make file, PL that comes with it.
And my question was, do you not need to tell it which library to link with in order to find that function?
Well, here I'm assuming, this is in the tutorial, I'm assuming that the library is already installed and you install it separately. Some XS tutorials, I think I'm answering your question. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but usually, I mean, you usually need to tell them, go find the something.so file to...
No. The way that it works is that if you have it installed already, you have, well, it depends on what system you use, but there is a linker automatically that finds files. So when you do include chromoprint.h on my system, it will look for it in userlib or in userlib64 and so on. That's something that your system does. That's something that your compiler actually does using environment variables. There's other tutorials that assume that you're just going to bundle all of your C library inside your Perl module. I don't do that. That's one of the basic tenets that I think is absolutely wrong and complicates things very much. From every XS author that I've spoken to, they say this is like the worst thing to do. It's difficult, it's very difficult, and there's a lot of problems with it. So in this tutorial, we assume that you've already installed this, your system's already ready for this. If I will call a compiler with the include here, your compiler will find it because it's already set up in your system. Which is not, it's not a complicated process.
When I'm developing C, I usually do have to, in my make file, I put -l library name in order to get
That will be in the, okay, you're referring to this. That is in the make file.
Oh, okay. So
That's definitely in the make file.
Okay.
Okay, I thought you meant
It
the,
would be nicer if there was something that automatically found a library.
could be, but I think explicitness is more important.
All right.
So yeah. So here's the library that I wrote, audio chromoprint. It's not on CPAN yet. This is the example of the PM file, just XS loader, load. This is the chromoprint.xs. Has a module specification here, has a packet specification. There's the include of the chromoprint. This is the XS part, same example I gave. I changed it to version. You see that it gets a parameter, SV star self, so you can actually do self arrow version. That will work. I want to give an example of a constructor. We're all used to this, right? How many people recognize this? Great. It's kind of this thing, right? Where we have a class that we got, and then we create a hash. We create a reference to that hash. Then we bless that reference with the class and return that. But I wanted to write this in XS. I was really interested in how that would work in XS. So assuming we have this is the code in XS. And what we do here is use SVs directly. So we know we want to return an SV because, well, it's a scalar value. We have a const char star class, so that's our class string. Our code first creates a new HV, so it's actually called new HV, surprising. And it returns hash is the name of the variable, and it's a pointer to an HV type, just like we have a pointer to an SV type. The location of spaces in between stars does not matter. So if anyone was about to ask, it doesn't matter. And what we do next is create a reference to that hash, which is this part, right? So what we do is call new RV, create a new reference value, underscore no ink. Okay, I'm going to explain that. And we have to send the hash. Now here's the trick. New RV, no ink, there's also new RV ink. They don't really know if you're sending an HV or an AV. They don't actually care. They don't want to know. What they want is to get an SV. But because HV is of type SV, we can do casting, where we say, you know, it's an HV, but treat it like it's just an SV. Because honestly, underneath all of it, it is. So this is the casting part. We actually tell the compilers, you know, just send it as an SV, please. Star and cast it. So we're sending to new RV no ink what it thinks is an SV, which essentially it is, but it is our hash variable, which is actually an HV. So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay. And we return an SV self. I'm just putting a const here. Doesn't really matter. And what we do is the last part, blessing. So SV bless is a function that just blesses. We send self. And this is, unfortunately, a piece of code that would take long to explain, but it is just referred to as just put that in. Because we need to get the stash, and we need to use gv stash pv. We will give it the string. 0 is a parameter, second parameter. And they will just bless these, just like this. It's even similar in the parameter order is the same. And that's our return value. And this is an entire constructor written in XS. How much faster is it? Not much at all. But it's very interesting. One thing I noticed here is at first I used new RV, and the first thing that came up was new RV inc. So I just put in new RV inc. Can anyone spot the problem? Not you. Sorry? Who yelled that? It's not. It's yes. People who know so well. Just yes. That would be a memory leak, because what's going to happen is that we have one reference here, and then we send it off. So there's 2. Once you'll go out of scope, you removed 1, but you created 2, right? 1, 2. If you get out of wherever you called new, you would only remove 1. That's a memory leak. So this is one thing that I stumbled upon. I saw this, and I was like, yeah, ink. Maybe there's ink. Maybe there's no ink. Why do we need the ink? And then I asked someone, and he said, yeah, you have to do no ink. Otherwise, you get a memory leak. So I was like, all right, hey, let's write a test for it. Here's the test. It's a very simple test. And what it does is, it uses test more. It uses audio chrome print. I define a variable in the outer scope called. I set it to 0. Then I create a new package. This is the syntax for, I don't know, was it 514? And I have a destroy function. And the destroy function is going to get called as soon as it goes out of scope. And what that's going to do is increment the called that lives outside of it. So I know the destroy was called. I know that it was completely destroyed. All references were removed. If all the references weren't removed, destroy wouldn't be called, and it will remain 0. And then what I do is create a new scope, this little thing here, and then I just create a new. When it will go out of the scope here, destroy will be called. When destroy will be called, this will increment, and called will now be 1. That's it. Pretty simple. So you can run this. And when I ran it with new RV inc, it reported an error. And when I switched it to new RV no inc, there's no error, because the reference count went down to 0, and everything was disposed. Does anyone have any questions about this, by any chance? There's no way I'll be able to answer your question. If you have a question for me, I'm sorry.
A recommendation. You need to improve the test case to check when destroy is called, a global destruction or a lexical destruction. Because if you leave out the knowing, it could be a global destruction. At the very end.
Global destruction won't happen until after preparing. Yeah.
And you really want it in lexical.
I have a question. Why didn't you just use is instead of combo K?
What? I'm sorry. Is? Oh, so here's another. That is a fantastic question, Dave. You're awesome. Thank you. Oh. What I want to show you is it's going to happen. Oh, I don't have internet. Okay, I can actually do this here. Nope. What? Ah, there we go. You know what? Let's try something else. I do believe I have. I fucking hate this terminal, but it has better colors for screens. Profile. Is this better? Yeah. Let's suppose so. So one interesting part is I think it's here. What am I doing? This is the makefile, by the way. This is the libs definition. So connect to ChromaPrint. Let's see if find. I think it's actually maybe in chapter 2. So I had a problem where I tried is at first. Yeah. I don't know if it's here. No. I'm looking for a specific thing.
You can answer me later.
Well, we have a lot of time, so
Oh, okay.
I didn't know it's going to be 50 minutes, so, you know.
Can you go back into
All right,
where
if you
SV
tell
was
us.
placed?
There we go. So, context version. I think it's. There we go. I think it's. Okay, so.
No, that's something else.
What?
Now you're comparing strings.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for the. Oh, it's the doubles. There we go. Because this is actually an interesting thing that I think shows a problem with the way that we handle tutorials. I had this issue where I wrote a test, and it was doing the plus, and then I compared them, and I compared them because there were strings. I compared them with. No. Oh, I'm sorry. There were doubles. I added numbers, so I compared them with.
Equal.
CMPOK. So I did a test, and I used at first. I used CMPOK. There we go. I used CMPOK, and it failed. I added A to B, and then I did CMPOK. 1 plus 1 equals 3. Failed. Does anyone know why?
Because 2 doesn't equal 3.
1 plus 2. 1 plus. Did I say 1 plus 1? 1 plus 2. I'm dyslexic. I'm allowed. Come on. For fuck's sake. I'm nervous. 1 plus 2 equals 3, and it failed. Why did 1 plus 2 equals 3 fail?
Equal levels of precision.
This piece of shit. So I wrote a part in the tutorial, so why do we use is instead of CMPOK? So you start noticing these small problems that exist when you look at a tutorial that just, well, I do is. Of course, I know I have to do is because I already failed. But it's important that when I run this, that I go through all of these stupid things that I fall and falter on and document those. Which I found, you know, it's super obvious when you look at it and go like, oh yeah, of course, floating numbers, piece of shit. But I didn't think of that. And that's why it uses is in some parts. So there's a lot of things, I think, in this tutorial that people would find interesting. The structure of the tutorial is actually pretty simple. This is not it. There we go. So there's chapters. Each chapter has a pod that documents it. And once it has actual code, because chapter 0 creates the skeleton for you, so once it actually has code, you can look at the code itself, the PM, the makefile PL, the PP port that was at the same version that I committed this, tests, if there are any, and that's how it continues. With chapter 3, there's the documentation and the module itself, the XS files, and so on. And chapter 4 actually does some other cool stuff that I haven't committed yet. So this has been, unfortunately, a relatively short talk compared to the time slot that I had. And I apologize for that. But, oh well, what you going to do? So moving back to this, I have some conclusion from this. The first one is that XS is actually not that complicated. I know there are some rough spots and some stuff that I don't know how to answer all the time. That's fine for me because that's how I learn. That's great. If anyone knows that, I always implore them to just document it to help me understand it and to help other people understand it. I think that overall, this didn't take me a lot to write. It didn't take me a lot to understand, which I think is even more important. It doesn't mean that I'll be able to explain all of it, but I'll be able to continually write and improve with this. And I think that you will too. XS itself can be fun. There's a lot of small intricacies here, but once you actually get this shit working, it's exhilarating. It's a fantastic feeling to take something that everyone is so fucking afraid of and to just demystify it completely, understand it, and write it out. And it works. And for some really interesting cases, it's super fucking fast. So it's a very useful skill, especially when there are some things that are not written in Perl. Chroma print, if I was so inclined to use something like that, I don't have it in Perl. I don't want to start rewriting the entire thing in Perl. I can just use chroma print and hook it up. And apparently, it's not that complicated. So it is a lot of fun to be able to do that. And you can do it. Okay? So that's definitely something that we all like. That's about all I have for now, which means that you get a short break, which is nice. There is some additional resources that I would give you as homework if you're interested in learning more about this. So first of all, there's the actual GitHub repo. You should check it out. You should fork it. You should fix stuff. You should add stuff. You should improve things. As you know, or as you may have seen, I have a lot of blind spots. I have a lot of things that I'm not aware of, that I don't know how it works. And there's, so the get pro no get context. Very interesting. I didn't know about this, so I had to read up on it. So it didn't exist till now. And there's a lot of other stuff that we can add. And this is, I think, a really good way to actually get an XS tutorial that makes a lot of sense, that builds something practical, that goes through all these small steps that we always fall on and completely miss. So please feel free to help. There's Perl Guts. I really recommend reading it. There's Perl Il Guts, the illustrated guts. Thank you. And there's the Perl API and Perl XS. The only problem with at least API and XS, they don't have any direction at all. I'm hoping that this would be a good direction for them. And this is something that I could really use a lot of help with. As you may have seen, I could really use a lot of help with. But I think together we can make it work and make it fun. That's about all I have. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to also fail answering them properly. Yes?
Okay, so I'm also a former C programmer. And can we go back to the XS, that's kind of like its own little language there. Now,
Yes.
you were saying that...
Ish.
Is that just like a complicated set of preprocessor macros?
So yeah, So what's going on is that it has a bunch of preprocessors. There's a preprocessor, there's a bunch of macros, there's some defined sections, and when you run the make file, it will actually kind of go through those things, sort them out, and prepare actual code.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that the actual C preprocessor? Like just ordinary C? Like I could look at
No. It's excess. It's excess. Excess is the preprocessor.
So it's its own special preprocessor.
Yes.
But you can, the generated C code will then go through the C preprocessor. So
Of course, for the parts that are the C preprocessor, but he's talking about the excess preprocessor. So the excess processor will generate C code, and that C code will inevitably have preprocessor directives as well.
Can you stop? Can you stop at that point and say, oh, what did you generate?
Yeah, you can do that.
Oh, okay. Oh, it sticks around.
Yeah. Yes.
So, in your experiment, you did a memory leak, like every C programmer ever has done at least 3 times in their life. Has anyone, you might not know this, but I'm kind of asking the room. Has anyone ever tried and/or successfully run the Valgrind over Perl running excess to it?
Oh yeah, sure.
So that's totally a thing you can do.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's super useful. But it'll detect certain types of memory leaks. It won't detect, it might not detect reference counting leaks, but it will certainly work on, allocations you did in C code or, in the excess code itself, calling malloc and such.
Right.
So yeah, it's really useful.
I would point out that Perl leaks like crazy,
Yeah.
so you do have to go through thousands of lines.
Well, there's
Perl-
suppression files, I think, in the Perl.
There are, but it still leaks like crazy. But yes, you have to use the suppression file or else now it's totally useless.
That's crazy each year.
Less crazy
Well,
each year,
a lot
we'll
of
say.
leaks, a lot of leaks are intentional in
Okay.
Perl too, so.
Yeah.
It's a feature, not a bug. Yes.
Does excess code integrate with the debugger at all?
I believe they know. Yeah, to a certain point, I assume. But yes. Yeah. Definitely. I wouldn't know how to debug it thoroughly, though. There are some additional people.
Works great.
Yeah. I just haven't done that myself. So, but you know what? This might be a good thing to put on the. If there was only a tutorial where you could just write it down, then people could go like, "Oh, I wonder how I could do this." And there's like a chapter there that shows how to debug this using a debugger. Any other questions? All right. So, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience, more than all, and have a good short break.